Let's start with the question, who is Iroh? The first episode of this show, in fact the first few episodes of the show, provide a very simple answer. Iroh is a silly old man who drinks tea and makes bad jokes. Of course, this is not anything close to the truth. And as the show goes along, it provides much more compelling and powerful answers to that question. Such as, Iroh is a fantastic mentor figure who saves Zuko from a life of chasing a cursed, vile dream that was going to destroy him eventually. And Iroh is a tragic character, an old man who lost his son in the war and permanently changed because of that. And he wants to help out Zuko in large part because he could never help his son. He could never give his son the safety and security he needed. What's so beautiful about the question of who is Iroh is that there is not one direct, complete answer. He's a complicated person with a story that is both inspiring and dark, depending on how you look at it. Or perhaps both. He doesn't have wisdom because he magically was granted it, or because he meditated under an enormous tree until the spirits that be gave him enlightenment. No, he has wisdom because he earned it, because he has life experience. He suffered and he has been broken down, but instead of giving into despair and sorrow, he emerged from his misery a kinder and bolder and more empathetic person. This is Avatar Explained, Iroh Edition. The most major way Iroh differs from the typical mentor character is his level of emotional concern for his pupil. Many mentor characters are cold and bitter. They may be smart, but they have been beaten down by their experiences. As importantly, they put themselves in a certain position of superiority. They expect to be treated with a certain level of deference. Sure, they may showcase moments of kindness, but this is the exception, not the rule. Think of characters like Dumbledore in Harry Potter and Gandalf in The Lord of the Rings. There's always a level of distance between them and their students. I'd like to clarify that there's nothing wrong with that. I like Dumbledore and I like Gandalf. I'm just saying this to contrast them with Iroh, who is an incredible character, that he's grown as a person from his experiences instead of allowing them to eat away at him is a testament to his extraordinary will and inner strength. It's something to aspire to. And what's extraordinary is that he's never arrogant about it. He doesn't brag. He's a very humble person. When Zuko says in episode 209, Bitter Work, that he's prouder than he's ever been, Iroh responds that pride is not the opposite of shame, but its source. There's perhaps no one in the Avatar universe less prideful than Uncle Iroh. Even though he was once the top general of the Fire Nation and the heir to the throne, he doesn't mind when he's insulted by a random Earth Kingdom swordsman. In one of the most important moments of the series, he gives a speech to Team Avatar in episode 319, The Old Masters. This is the last time this group is together until the very last scene of the series, which takes place after the war has ended. Zuko asks Iroh to take his rightful place on the throne, replacing Ozai, but Iroh refuses, and not just because of what he said to Aang, that power and perfection are overrated and not as important as happiness and love. He knows it would not be best for the Fire Nation or the world if he was to take power. It would lead to internal division, even civil war. Instead, he knows it's Zuko who has to take power. If Iroh had even a spark of ego, he would have taken back the throne that was stolen from him by Ozai's trickery. But he doesn't. While Zuko's tenure as Fire Lord is still marked with more than a little internal division, such as the emergence of the new Ozai Society, a group that wishes to restore Ozai to the throne in the comic trilogy Smoke and Shadow, Zuko being Fire Lord is mostly accepted.
This is in part because people see Zuko as a legitimate ruler, but it is also in part because Ozai was overthrown by the Avatar. It is Iroh who lays out the most compelling case for why Aang must be the one to defeat Ozai. It's not just because Aang is, with the Avatar state, the most powerful of them. It's because as the Avatar, Aang has an authority greater than the authority of individual nations. The world, even many citizens of the Fire Nation, see this as a legitimate use of power. Observations like this make clear Iroh is the wisest person in the group. The show doesn't have to shout and scream that he's wise to get this point across. Lesser shows would have made it obvious from the start of the series that Iroh was supposed to be this wise mentor character by having him recite a series of mentor character cliches. Avatar is great because it lets the audience discover Iroh's wisdom for themselves. Iroh is never ostentatious about it. He doesn't go, "Hey, look at me, I'm wise and mature, I'm the smartest character in this show." His wisdom only becomes apparent when he's using it to help people, which he does often. Though he's far closer to Zuko than he is to any other character in the show, to the extent that he considers Zuko to be like a son to him, he doesn't only give his wisdom to Zuko. Anyone who gives Iroh a chance is helped by him. Perhaps the best example of this is in the episode The Tales of Ba Sing Se. This is an episode composed of various vignettes. The tonal range of these vignettes is impressive. Some are funny, some are sweet, some are poignant, but one rises above the rest, and that is the tale of Iroh. At first, this appears to be nothing more than a typical day in Iroh's life, but he soon reveals that it is a special occasion, though it's not revealed until the end exactly what occasion this is. He spends the day helping people. Some of what he does is simple, such as pushing a moonflower into the sun, where it will grow better, and helping a crying baby by singing what appears to be a rather simple song, although the baby only really stops crying when it pulls on Iroh's long beard. Other things he does over the course of this episode are more interesting and distinct to him. He comes across a group of kids playing a game. When a ball goes through a window, Iroh tells him that it's best to admit mistakes when they occur and seek to restore honor. However, he changes his mind when the shop owner threatens to physically hurt the kids. Restoring honor is never as easy as it appears. Iroh himself teaches that to Zuko. Iroh instructs the kids to run away, then runs away himself. A man attempts to rob him, but Iroh is not threatened. The man's stance is so weak that Iroh claims he could very easily disarm him, then does just that. Instead of running, Iroh teaches the man a proper stance, then has a nice conversation with him. The man states that he wants to become a masseur. Iroh encourages him, saying he'll be able to achieve his goals. The events of this episode depict Iroh in an almost saintly light. He's portrayed as someone who can make everything better. No problem is too big for him to overcome. His very presence is a source of light and peace. If that was all this vignette was, it would still be sweet, but it would risk feeling a bit simplistic and over-sentimental. Thankfully, the vignette's final segment makes everything snap right into place. Iroh takes everything he's brought for the special occasion away from the bustling activity of the city and to a hilltop. Gradually, he takes everything out. We see the picture of Lu Ten, Iroh's only son, whom he lost while laying siege to Ba Sing Se, and suddenly the vignette becomes much less lighthearted. This would have been Lu Ten's birthday. Lighting candles for his fallen son, he says, "If only I could have helped you." Then he sings the same song we heard him sing earlier in the vignette, Leaves from the Vine. It's about a young soldier who comes marching home. The irony, of course, is that Iroh's son never did come home. I know people who cry whenever they watch this scene, and I completely understand why. I nearly teared up myself writing this script.
Whether this is an annual tradition for Iroh, or whether he's only doing this because he's in Ba Sing Se, the place where his son lost his life, is unclear. Personally, I think it's the former, but ultimately that's beside the point. This moment is brilliant because although it is deeply, deeply sad, it's not only that, it's not despondent. Sorrow is not the only emotion at play here. There's real hope in how Iroh takes care to help out every single person he interacts with that day. He does his best with what he's been given. That's all any of us can do. At the same time, this doesn't mean he's not grieving. There's nothing that can numb the pain of losing one's child. Not even finding a surrogate son like Zuko. He's not even close to being done grieving. There are some wounds that never heal, that never can heal, because they're that deep and that affecting.
Once one accepts that the light Iroh shines exists in the context of the darkness of his past, everything about his character starts making a lot more sense and becoming more inspiring. A major reason why he never loses faith that Zuko can change is that he changed himself. Until he became more spiritually connected and got set on the right path, he was cruel and unjust. This isn't to say he was worse than his brother Ozai and his father Azulon, or even as bad as them, but it is to say that he was much different from the kind and compassionate man that Zuko, Team Avatar, and the Avatar fandom have come to know and love. In Zuko, he likely sees some version of the person he used to be, and he holds out hope that Zuko will find the light even after Zuko turns against him in the Season 2 finale, The Crossroads of Destiny. And Iroh is right. After a long and difficult and transformative psychological journey, Zuko decides he can't support his father anymore. He has a tearful reunion with Iroh in the third-to-last episode of the show, The Old Masters. Part of the reason this reunion is so emotional from Iroh's point of view is that he was right. He had every reason to give up on Zuko, but he never did, and his faith was rewarded. This is a major reason why Iroh is as decisive as he is when he speaks to the group at the end of the episode. He is a strong believer in destiny, though he has a different view of it than Zuko does early in The Last Airbender. Zuko sees destiny as something fixed, a straight path that one must follow rigidly. To Iroh, however, the path of destiny curves and twists. It leads one to unexpected places. To predict where one's destiny will take them is, for the most part, completely foolish, Iroh argues, but if one faces life with a desire to help others and a willingness to change for the better, everything will work out. It's optimism, yes, but it's not the same optimism that drives, say, Aang. It's more subtle, but it's unmistakable. It's earned, and as such, it's unshakable. In his speech, Iroh talks about a vision he once had about taking Ba Sing Se. Back then, he believed that this vision meant he would be victorious in his quest to take the city for the Fire Nation. But his conquest failed, leading him to the change of heart that transformed his life forever. As he gives this speech, he's sitting near the gates of Ba Sing Se, ready for the final battle. He says that he had simply misinterpreted his vision, and that it actually foretold that he was going to take the city back in the name of the Earth Kingdom. His ability to find light in the darkness makes him an inspiration to Team Avatar, as much as it makes him an inspiration to the fans of Avatar. Only 2 members of Team Avatar, other than Zuko, have a one-on-one conversation with him, but both characters are the better for talking to him. Aside from his conversation with Aang in The Crossroads of Destiny, he also talks with Toph in episode 208, The Chase. This conversation is a major reason why I consider The Chase to be one of the most underrated episodes of Avatar. I understand why it's not talked about more, considering that it comes immediately after The Blind Bandit and Zuko Alone, 2 of the most important episodes of Season 2, but it really is fantastic in how deftly it manages all the action and all the different sides of the fighting without ever once feeling clunky or cumbersome. It's mostly a chaotic episode, but there is one scene that sticks out. It's peaceful, even serene. Toph and Iroh, both wandering around the Earth Kingdom, happen to run into each other. At first, Toph is cautious. She just ran away from Team Avatar because she thought they were too controlling. After the years of emotional abuse and neglect her parents inflicted upon her, she's cautious of any kind of established order, and she's suspicious of anyone who says they want to help her. But Iroh, no stranger to helping people who clearly need help but don't quite know how to say so, proves to her that he does not want to restrict her. Gradually, he proves to her that there's nothing wrong with seeking help from others. It is not a sign of weakness. At the end of their conversation, Toph thanks him for his advice, and Iroh says that the pleasure is all his. He calls sharing tea with a fascinating stranger one of life's great delights.
This is who Iroh is. This is the person he's glad he has become. To go back to episode 319, The Old Masters, Iroh rejects power because it's the best thing for the Fire Nation, and he rejects power because he's not an egotist, but he also rejects power because he doesn't want it. He's glad for the life he has right now. When he speaks in Season 2 about loving this life of being a tea shop owner and getting to make people happy by serving them great tea, he's not saying this out of self-denial. He's saying this because he genuinely believes it. This is what he genuinely wants. He's lived both sides. He's lived a humble life, and he's lived a life spent in the pursuit of power and riches and influence. And he prefers that humble life. It has been much better for him. It has healed his heart to some extent, and it has healed his spirit almost completely. While nothing can ever bring closure on the death of his son, knowing that he helped his surrogate son, Zuko, turn to good and to wisdom is the closest thing he will ever get. Zuko becoming a kind and empathetic Fire Lord is all Iroh could ever want. What he wants now is to just play Pai Sho and serve tea. Iroh doesn't see this as a defeat. He doesn't see this as settling for less. He sees it as a great victory. We should too. We should see it as a great victory for one of the greatest characters in the history of animation and in the history of television. So thank you for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, donate to my Patreon if you can, and you want to see more videos like this. Even $1 a month really goes a long way. Watch more Avatar, it's a fantastic show, and tune in soon for the next Avatar Explained video. Thank you all again. Adios, comrades.